Hi everyone, and welcome back to Stamp with Anna. I know it's been a while since I've posted. I've had a really busy couple weeks going on, but I am now back into my craft room, and I'm hoping to get back on my regular Monday, Wednesday, Friday posting schedule. So this week I'm going to show you some cards we made at card class this past weekend, and the theme of the card class was decorating your cards on the outside, as we always do, and also on the inside, as well as on our envelope. And I know so many times I'll make a card for a class or for my blog, and I don't completely finish it. I don't do the inside, and I certainly don't do the envelope. And then when I need a card, I just run into my basket, pull one out, and off it goes. And sadly, if I'm in a hurry, the inside's not decorated nicely, and neither is the envelope. So this class that I had was just to plant the seed of sending a complete card, which I'm going to make that be one of my goals. So this is the first card that we made, and this is done with the Daisy Delight product line. And the paper is being discontinued, obviously, when the catalog ends May 31st, because the DSP never carries over. But fortunately, the Daisy Delight stamp set, as well as the coordinating punch, are carrying over. They are now currently, until May 31st, they're in the catalog as a bundle, where you would get 10% off if you bought the bundle. Come June 1st, when the new catalog comes out, it will no longer be a bundle. You will have to buy the two of them separately. But at least they're still here, and that's what makes me happy. So the first thing that we need to do is to make these two portions of our front card. And I would do that before you stamp, because you want to make sure that you, when it does come time to stamp, you do stamp in the center of the card. So I have a piece of thick, very vanilla, which is cut A2 size, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4, and that is going to be the base of my card. So the first thing I'm going to do is make this bottom part here. And what I've done is I've cut a strip of this designer series paper. It's 5.5 by 1.5, and it's 5.5 because it needs to be the width of the card. Then I have two strips of cardstock. This one is Calypso Coral, and this one is Old Olive. And I'm just going to attach them, make a little border here, like that, just to break that up a little bit, because having this bordered looks a lot nicer than just having it like that. It's just a nice way to take your project up a notch. And these strips are cut 1/2 by 5.5. So I'm going to, with my snail, here it is, going to run a little bit of snail along one edge of my designer series paper, and then I'm going to make a very small border. Now you can make this border as thick or as thin as you want. You do need to bear in mind, however, if you make these very wide, your space to stamp your sentiment is going to be a lot smaller. So after I've attached my green, my Old Olive, excuse me, I'm going to come back and I'm going to do the same and attach my Calypso Coral. Okay, and now I need to attach this right here. Okay, so I'm going to attach some snail along all 4 sides. I'm going to line that up with the bottom of my card here and get my corners to nice and even there. Oops. Pull that down just a tad. Okay, and now I'm going to do the same with another strip of the same designer series paper, and this is cut 5.5 by 1 inch, and because I want it to be a little smaller. And I'm going to bring in another 2 strips of the cardstock, and again I'm going to attach the Old Olive first. I'm going to try to keep this border the same size as the one on the bottom. It might be off just a tad, but that's okay. And then I'm going to do it again with the Calypso Coral. And now I'm going to attach it to the front of my card. And I'm going to put the portion with the cardstock facing down so that I have this nice border here. Okay, now that we have our borders made, we can come in and stamp. So I'm going to take the thank you from the Daisy Delight stamp set, and I'm going to ink that up with some Old Olive. And bring in my Pierce mat because this is photopolymer. I'm going to ink that up, and I'm going to put that closer to the right hand side. I'll stand up so I get that nice and straight. Make sure my card is straight. Alright, now I'm going to make my daisy. And I usually, when I use this stamp set, I usually use yellow on white. And I decided to shake it up a little bit and use Calypso Coral on Very Vanilla, just to give it a different look. And I really liked the way it looked. So I have 2 pieces of Calypso Coral here, and I'm going to ink up my daisy with Calypso Coral. So I'm going to go Calypso Coral on Calypso Coral, and I'm just going to stamp that right in there. And now I'm going to punch these out with the coordinating daisy punch. Now, when you're punching these out, if you have a square and you drop this in here, when you're trying to line this up, you may find that you can't. And the way that I fix that is I just take a pair of snips and I cut an angle. And now this gives me a nice way to hold this and maneuver it in there so it's on an angle. And once I have my daisy all lined up, I'm going to punch. And I'm going to do the same with this second one. Put it in at an angle. And line it up. And punch. Now I have these here, and I want to attach them to the side of my card, and I want to give them a little bit of dimension. And in order to do that, very gently with my bone folder, I am going to run my bone folder underneath each petal, and it's giving it a little curl. You need to be careful, because if you tug too hard, you'll just rip the petal right off of your flower, and you don't want to do that. Okay, so there it is, and see how it stands up nicely? I'm going to put a little bit of snail on the back. You could also use a glue dot if you'd like. And then when I press this down, the center down, it's raised. I don't see if you can see that. It's raised, and it gives it nice dimension. So I'm going to do that with my second flower as well. Again, gently curling each one of the petals. Adding a little bit of adhesive, and then I'm going to offset this just a little so that the flower is nice and full. And again, when I push that down, my daisy has some dimension. You can see that. Now the last thing to finish my daisy is my little center, and for that I have a scrap of Daffodil Delight, and I'm going to stamp the center. Let me show you. It's this little one right here. I'm going to stamp that in Daffodil Delight onto Daffodil Delight. And then with my 1/2 inch circle punch, oops, with my 1/2-inch circle punch, I'm just going to go in and punch that out, and it's a perfect fit. And again, I'm going to just put a little bit of snail, but you could use a glue dot, you could use fine tip glue. And there's the front of our card. Now we're going to decorate the inside of the card, and we're going to do it the same way we did for the front. I have a piece of designer series paper. This one is cut 1 by 5.5, and then a piece of the Calypso Coral and the Old Olive, and these are cut 5.5 by 1/2. And I'm going to do the exact same thing I did for the front panel. Just going to make a little border, and then I'm going to come in and do the same thing with the Calypso Coral. And then I'm going to attach that to the inside of my card. And again, I'm going to have my cardstock, I'm going to have my cardstock outline or border facing the top. I'm going to line that up. And there it is. Now I have a tiny bit that overhangs here. I'm just going to come in with my snips, and I'm going to snip that away. I must have just cut those just a tiny bit too long. And there we go. So there's the front of the card, which is beautiful. You open it up and it's nicely decorated, and you still have a lot of room to write a nice little thank you note. So the last thing we're going to do is decorate our envelope. And for this one, I just put 2 dainty little flowers right on the corner there. So not flowers, leaves. The leaves of this stamp set are 2-step stamping. And what I did was I used my Old Olive, and I did some stamping off because I wanted the solid image to be a tiny bit lighter than my veined image. Let me just grab a piece of scrap paper that doesn't have anything on it here. Here's a piece. Okay, so I'm going to stamp up my solid image in Old Olive. I'm going to stamp off once, and then on the lower corner here, I'm going to stamp my leaf. And I'm going to do that again. I'm going to stamp off, and then I'm going to stamp it onto my envelope, just making a little angle. Now I'm going to come in with the veined version of the leaf, and I'm going to stamp that up with Old Olive. And full strength, I'm not stamping off, I'm going to come in and line this up right there. Okay, I'll do that one more time. Make sure I get that lined up. Should probably use my Stamparatus for this. All right, and there we go. There is our pretty envelope. So once it gets addressed, it's just a nice little touch, I think, to add to the card, to show someone you cared that much to take that little extra time to do that. And I will mention, excuse me, Stampin' Up's envelopes, the Very Vanilla and the Whisper White envelopes, they have a nice coating on them. They do go through the same process as the cardstock, so they accept ink so nicely. I know a lot of times if you use envelopes that you buy in bulk at, you know, one of the big box stores or whatnot, and you go stamp on them, it absorbs the ink very, very differently, and you don't get as beautiful an image as you do with the nice finished Stampin' Up envelopes. So anyway, there is our thank you card decorated outside, inside, as well as on the envelope. I hope you'll come back on Wednesday and I'll show you another card that we've decorated all the way through. If you have any questions about this project or any of the products, please contact me through my blog at www.stampwithanna.blogspot.com. Thanks so much. I'll catch you back here Wednesday.